Okay, we are live. Live on this March 5th, 2022. Hey folks, Larsen here. Let's get right to it then. The opening song was, of course, Klendathu, dropped from Starship Troopers 1997 by the late, great Basil Poleudoris. Poleudoris might legitimately be one of the greatest American symphonic composers, in my opinion, certainly of the 20th century at least. And who doesn't love a movie about the Trump Space Force? Okay, Pony Throat is already yakking away. He asked questions about why I change my time slot so often. Am I trying to fill out the slot with most viewers or working around my traveling piano milker business? A little of column A, a little bit of column B, to be quite honest. Speaking of movies, F.W. Murnau's Nosferatu is 100 years old as of yesterday. One of the greatest silent films. It's public domain too, as most good things are. Watch it. Still the most accurate adaptation of Dracula. Yeah, I said it. Okay, let's see. In other movie news, they're remaking White Men Can't Jump, and I can already tell you that's going to be an absolute pile of dog shit. Okay, it is hard goddamn work defiling a 90s classic even more than the Atari Jaguar video game based on that movie already did, but by God, they're going for it. Okay, we are live. Okay, has everybody been hearing me okay? And by everybody, I mean Pony Throat, my dearest fan. Okay, apparently so, yes. Disregard that question. The shameless ripoff becomes public domain, Ponythroat says of Nosferatu. Well, yeah, well, I mean, they wanted to use the original names, but the Stoker estate was a bunch of shit asses, so what are you going to do? But yeah, speaking of the White Men Can't Jump remake, yeah, some guy named Jack Harlow is going to be in the Woody Harrelson role. I have no idea who that is. I mean, you all know I'm not down with pop culture at all, so I have no idea who this bleeding chughead is. I mean, I've kind of checked out of popular culture since roughly 2010, so, I don't know. But hey, I mean, I guess we've already gone full tilt into 90s nostalgia since, I guess the 80s thing was old hat. Fun fact, if I recall correctly, Stanley Kubrick legit loved White Men Can't Jump. He thought the dialogue was some of the best he'd ever heard. I don't even know how they're going to make this movie in this day and age. I mean, look, like the original obviously had race and racial tension as, a minor underlying theme, but it was in that pre-woke jocular way of two dudes shit-talking each other. Since the core of the movie was about the strutting, peacocking egos of male macho athletes. I shudder to think how this movie's going to go, this remake. Was it just going to be Billy showing up to the courts and then it's a 2-hour lecture about how dare he culturally appropriate street ball with his white privilege? I have a sneaking suspicion it's going to be a little like that. For God's sake, like when they show, honest to God, they show Rush Hour on network television, they'll put content warnings. I'm not joking, content warnings before it, because some people might find that movie offensive. Yes, a goofy action comedy about people of two races overcoming their differences and being friends while fighting the bad guys is offensive. Possibly because it has the discourtesy of not beating you over the head with whitey bad for 2 hours. And yes, I did say whitey in reference to Rush Hour. Jackie Chan is Chinese, and therefore he's white adjacent, don't you know? The delicate sensibilities of morons nowadays can't handle the blistering dialogue the original White Men Can't Jump. So yeah, put this one on the list of gobshite I'm never going to watch. I have no desire to either hear nor listen to this, Sydney. And since we're already well on our way to defiling the Wesley and Woody cinematic universe, are we going to remake Money Train next? Once again, the 90s, the last decade of something resembling sanity in America. You might be asking why we're doing this stream early today. Well, I have a few reasons. One is I am kind of experimenting to get the most engagement. Two is I have music lessons to teach in the morning and afternoon, including a 10-mile bike ride to my students because I'm mildly insane. And then this evening, I have business in Manhattan to deal with. 5'9", statuesque, slow-eyed business with long, dark hair. Wink. That's slow, S-L-O-E, not S-L-O-W. I don't sleep with Downies. But let's get off this fun stuff. What's in the news in our modern-day hellscape? Disney has opened up the Star Wars Hotel. $5,000 for 2 nights, and it looks like absolute garbage. A windowless bunker is what the reviews say, although the reviews are apparently leaning towards the positive. You gotta get the peasantry ready for that capsule apartment life. Star Wars is a 1970s franchise, and for $5,000, I want a full 70s luxury experience. For $5,000, I want lines of cocaine and a naked Raquel Welch waiting for me in the penthouse, goddammit. Because otherwise, you're just paying for a vastly overpriced hotel room with no windows that looks like a shipping container. Okay, Dice of Fate says, how can I buy you a new mic? Well, you can always donate to the Patreons, or you can join that new membership dealie that I just applied for on YouTube. Honestly, I did the membership thing on YouTube just so they'd stop sending me pop-ups about it. I don't know what the hell that is. But yeah, I'm always welcome for you to give me some money, you filthy pay piggies. But yeah, once again, people, when it comes to the Disney Star Wars Hotel, stop defining your life based on corporate products. White men can't jump. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm always a little paranoid about getting the microphone good. Yeah, stop defining your life based on corporate products. That is a stupid thing to do, and you should feel bad for doing it. You could drive across America and see all the sights for $5,000, probably less. And it would be much more memorable than staying in a hotel. Nothing says vacation like banging lot lizards. Yeah, international news. The Ukraine crisis is still going on, despite a disturbing number of people being under the impression that it would be over by now. War is not over in 90 minutes, you television-addled clods. Franz Ferdinand is rescinding its Russia tour, and I suddenly realize we've time-traveled back to 1914. I kid, of course. That's Franz Ferdinand the band, not Franz Ferdinand the Austro-Hungarian Archduke. Okay, Ponythroat says, people have been nostalgia wanking. Sorry, that's nostalgia wanking, I kid, of course, about the 80s since the 70s. Yeah, I know, Ponythroat, but I think they're doing the 90s now as well. But speaking of the Russia thing, it's interesting to me how the Wall Street Journal wrote an article a couple of years back about Putin's imperial ambitions. Russia returns to its Asian past. And it depicts Putin in, like, Mongolian armor. I never thought I'd see blatant yellow peril fear-mongering used to depict Russia of all countries, but here we are. But seriously, about Ukraine, I have one thing to say to the good people of the West, men of the West. Must we make everything into some kind of weird sexual thing? Everybody's like, oh my god, Vladimir Zelensky's so hot, I want him to fuck me. Like, guys, this is a very serious political issue. Can we not turn it into a thirst trap? Sorry, 1 second, I have a text message to deal with. Yeah, like, guys, let's not thirst over the president of Ukraine. I mean, I am glad for one thing. At least they're not comparing the factions here to, like, Hogwarts houses and, oh god, I'm sure that's coming up soon. But yeah, boy, I love the total about face the left did. You know, for those of you young whippersnappers who don't remember the Bush years, I do remember the Bush years. You know, went from like, back then it was all like, no blood for oil, sedition is patriotism. Okay, cool. And to an extent, I do agree with that. But nowadays, it's all rabid. Yay, I love the military industrial complex. Stick it in my ass, daddy. Like, in the span of one presidency, you made that total 180. Like, I've seen people on Twitter going like, yeah, man, we should start a limited nuclear exchange with Russia. We'd win. Putin needs to be nuked. And here I am standing with my jaw agape at the sheer lunacy of somebody advocating nuclear war. Some of you may die, but that's a sacrifice I'm willing to make. Okay, look, when Hiroshima and Nagasaki were nuked, I feel like the people on the Manhattan Project, they didn't exactly know about the long-term effects of radiation. They just knew it would be a big boom. I mean, many of the scientists in the Manhattan Project themselves got cancer, and people were hanging around nuclear test sites for years. You can ask the cast and crew of The Conqueror by RKO Studios about that, how much cancer they got. So, I mean, I genuinely don't think people knew about the long-term effects of nuclear weapons in the 1940s and 50s. But we know now, damn it. If you are advocating the use of nuclear weapons, you are an idiot. Okay, seriously, like, I'm kind of repeating myself, but when did the left become the generals from Dr. Strangelove? Yeah, we're going to go into mine shafts, and, the fallout should be tolerable within 100 years or so. And we will have 10 women for each man. Still, I do suppose I understand the thirst for Zelensky to some extent. I mean, it's really nice to see a national leader who doesn't, like, hate his country and want to sell it out at the first opportunity to the highest bidder. That's more I can say for America's leaders. Some of the reactions Western countries have had to this is pretty dumb. Like, we're going to take vodka off the shelves. That'll show those Ruskies. Yeah, you already gave the Russians the money to import it. You're just hurting the bar or liquor store in your town. It would be nice if we didn't buy so much of our oil from Russia. Hint, hint. I'm telling you, people, you gotta take that bike pill. Get on your bikes and stick it to the Ruskies that way. And the idiocy keeps going on. Some people are like, we're no longer going to call it Chicken Kiev. It's going to be Chicken Kiev now. Yeah, wow, you changed one letter. You're making a difference, dude. Doesn't even make any sense. It's already named after the capital city of Ukraine. Like, it's like, yeah, I'm not going to show solidarity to Ukraine. I'm going to show solidarity to Ukraine. Like, what? Please tell me we're not going to do freedom fries again. Like, instead of pouring yourself a white Russian, you're going to pour yourself a white freedom. Oh, wait, I forgot. Freedom is inherently white supremacist. That's what Justin Trudeau taught us all. Oh, God. It's the W years all over again. You kids want to know what it was like living in the early 2000s? Here we go. And somehow there are still evangelical dumbwads who love W. And also liberals all seem to love him now because, hey, he's not Trump. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Trump is a dickhead. But I'll take him over W or Romney or any neocon 11 out of 10 times. And that goes for John McCain's desiccated corpse, too. Okay, let's see. Got a lot of chats here. Ian Kempster says, nuclear weapons have no place on Earth, in my opinion. Yes, I agree. Ponythroat says, you say that these devices should never be used. I say you're mistaken. Let's get to the fuse. I get it. Ponythroat says, maybe if more Americans rode bicycles, they would be less fat. Bring on the Liberty Cabbage. Oh, yeah, I'm going to talk about the fatties a little bit later on. We'll get to that. But, yeah, people really should be riding bikes more often. I mean, as a rule of thumb, if the round trip is less than, 15, 20 miles, I'm going to bike it. Unless I really have to be somewhere on time. Which I don't today. I mean, I'll be back home well in time to, go cruising. Okay, so far engagement seems roughly on par with the evening shows. I mean, I guess people are just not busy on Saturdays. They can listen to me rambling on. But yeah, speaking of the Russia thing, there are, of course, dumbasses who are harassing Russian people, like, immigrants, to stick it to the Russian government. Please explain to me how harassing small business owners or, like, kicking over pots of borscht is going to fix anything. And it's now that I realize that I wasn't joking. We are living in the Bush years again. This is freedom fries all over again. Russian hockey players are no longer being used in advertising. Russian cats are being banned by animal shelters. Yeah, I'm sure Fluffy's a really big Putin supporter. And this isn't just happening in this dumb country. I've seen videos on Twitter of things going on in other countries, like Australia, Germany, some other countries. Yes, I did see video of a Russian grocery store being vandalized in Germany, windows being broken and graffitied, and oh boy, that seems familiar, don't it? So all of you people who are wondering, how can people stand by and let insert tragedy here happen? Well, take a look around you. You're letting it happen right now. I did see a pretty funny Twitter post from a German guy who was saying, he said something like, let me make this clear. You want Germany to make a really big army, invade Poland, and attack Russia. Just so I'm getting that straight, right? I thought it was pretty funny. And of course, people are managing to make a war between two European countries into a lecture and example of white privilege somehow. Like they say that, the reporters are shocked that this is happening in Europe. That implies that war is natural in non-white parts of the world. And yeah, I agree. Some of the reporters said some dumb stuff. There was some French reporter who was like, oh my god, there's like these blonde, blue-eyed people dying. How terrible. And yeah, I agree. That's pretty dumb. Unfortunately, yeah, people do tend to empathize with people that look like them more than they do other people. And European reporters will empathize with European people more. I mean, that's unfortunate, but unfortunately, that's human nature. I wouldn't expect any different. There was a war going on in Asia. I mean, Asian reporters would feel the same way. But there's also other examples of white privilege going on in this European on Euro war. Oh no, some African businessmen / exchange students / migrants were slightly inconvenienced in getting out of Ukraine. And meanwhile, actual Ukrainians and Russians are dying. Why don't we just report on the events as is? Okay, actual headline from CNN, an op-ed piece. I'm a black African woman. It's time to change the channel on Ukraine coverage. What in the actual hell is this woman talking about? Far be it from me to deny the black girl magic and all that. Sorry, let me rearrange my microphone here. Yeah. Far be it from me to deny that black girl magic, but can black female commentators, who are, of course, a tiny subset of all African American people, Susan, can they, understand for a few minutes that the world doesn't revolve around them entirely? There's another article in the Washington Post about another black woman, written by another black woman, another op-ed piece, not the same one who wrote that CNN piece, complaining about how exhausting it is that she has to constantly lecture white liberals during Black History Month. And yeah, I suppose that would be pretty exhausting. I mean, I don't know what it's like being a minority that white liberals actually care about, but, whatever. But boy, it sure is great reading about all those black lady op-eds in which they really seem to want to let us know about two things. One, their hair, and two, how they really ought to work less and relax more. And that's just wonderful, Susan. Okay, Ponythroat says, thoughts on the Russian brain trust shelling of that nuclear power plant. Well, I guess Chernobyl wasn't good enough. You gotta do more, I suppose. Ian Kempster says, love your channel. It's time to go lift some heavy ass weights. Yeah, you do that, buddy. I like to get a workout in the morning myself. Yeah, kind of going back a bit to that whole Vlad Zelensky sex thirst. Let's talk about some sexual improprieties, stepping away from Russia for a second. Apparently, the Playboy company has a rift between supporters and detractors of Hef's legacy. Some women claim that Hef sexually abused them, others defend him. It's a lot of he said, she said, and I'm sure the statute of limitations has expired on most of this. You know, I've always had a respect for the magazine, and I really did read it for the articles. And the short stories, too. I have a collection of Gahan Wilson's cartoons, actually, on my computer right now. You know, they had, good cartoons, lots of really good interviews and short stories. One of my favorite novels, Flashman, was actually serialized in Playboy. And then there's Naked Chicks. For you young whippersnappers who aren't aware, in its heyday, Playboy was basically the New Yorker with big fat titties. Imagine that. There was a day when America had multiple world-class literary magazines. You know, the New Yorker, the American Mercury, and I would certainly include Playboy in that. I'm sorry, but the fact that this country once had a widely circulated magazine with tasteful pornography and world-class literary talent, to me, reflects how great the American mid-century truly was. Anyway, as I'm sure you're all aware, the actual print magazine stopped printing in 2020. It's all internet and multimedia content now. I'm sure the fact that they were putting dudes on the cover near the end of its life, that probably killed things pretty quick. I mean, there's a lot of things that hurt the sex industry. I think the internet did a lot, mainly in terms of oversaturation. Like, I keep hearing these persistent talks of 20 and 30-year-olds with erectile dysfunction now. A 20-year-old man should not have a limp dick. I am absolutely of the opinion that you can oversaturate yourself and burn yourself out sexually. Those of you who aren't aware, if you ever saw interviews with Hef near the end of his life, the dude just looked completely miserable. I honestly do think he just got completely burned out on sex, and he dove into greater and greater depravity. I think I read once he literally had to watch gay porn just to get to normal to have heterosexual intercourse. Like, he overexhausted his sex drive and needed to go deeper and deeper into it just to get off. Okay, Ponythroat says, Hefner is jurgling himself cross-dyed at the public consternation of his legacy. He's dead and Kirsten's name does less than nothing. He won. Put his graves next to Jimmy Savile. I don't think that. I think that's going a little too far. I don't think he fucked any kids, so don't put him next to Jimmy Savile, certainly. I mean, being sexually depraved and weird is technically not illegal as long as you're doing it with consent. But yeah, this is basically what Hellraiser was about. I mean, it's not a model for your life, people. This is why I stopped looking at The Prawns. You know, NoFap does have a lot of truth to it. I'd say at most you should crank one out once a week, because sexual celibacy does drive people insane. But doing it too much leads you to some pretty strange places. And that's a hard lesson I had to draw for myself. Because unlike most people who preach sexual moderation, I've always had lots of sex in my life since I got my V card punched, and with lots of different partners. But look, I'm 30 years old. I don't want to spend the rest of my life chasing pointless tail. I don't want to be that open-shirted, hairy, middle-aged creep going to clubs and trying to bang them sluts, man. Tucker Max cough. I just find that completely pathetic. I feel that every man should spend a few years being a sexual horn dog, using proper protection, of course, from your teenage years to about, 25, 26. Once you get into your 20s, you really ought to cut it out and settle down. I mean, it's a balancing act. Like, nothing turns a woman off more than a sexually inexperienced, incompetent, timid geek. But for your own soul and your mental health, Being a totally depraved sex lunatic, that ain't good either. Okay, Ponythroat says that's not what he meant regarding the, half being next to Jimmy Savile. I'm not sure what you meant then, my friend. And just so we're clear, while Ponythroat answers that question, this goes to women too, to an extent, that, you should have a little fun and then kind of cut it out. Contrary to what the feminists say, I'm not saying women can't enjoy their sexuality and they can't be confident in their sexuality. But considering women's biology, somebody gave me money. Mitchell Valentino says, cut it out and settle down. Indeed. Yes. Okay, Ponythroat says, I'm saying that Jimmy Savile also won. He got away with it and died a national hero. Moving his grave and calling names does nothing. I gotcha. Yes, Mitchell, you're very generous. Thank you. But yeah, anyway, like I was saying, considering women's biology, that ever-ticking biological clock, and the fact that, women do tend to go for older, more experienced men who take the lead, you might want to slightly ameliorate the years here. Maybe women ought to have their fun in their teenage years and then settle down in their early to mid-20s, or as men should settle down in their mid to late 20s. That way, I think everybody's satisfied. Culturally speaking, everybody's got a bit of sexual experience and fun under their belt, but we're all still relatively young. We don't have the, hordes of middle-aged, unmarried, childless women staggering around in a bitter, drunken stupor, making society worse every single day. Because there's really a certain age where having sex all willy-nilly stops being fun. You stop being a nymph of Arcady, and you just become weird and degenerate. Frankly, I think 5 to 10 years of sexual hedonism is more than enough for anybody. Fantasy worlds and Disney girls, I'm going back. Okay, in American politics, the Senate passes an anti-lynching bill in an almost unanimous vote. Well, it's a nice sentiment, I suppose, but I'm pretty sure murder was, already illegal, so I'm not entirely sure why this was necessary. Out of curiosity, when was the last lynching in the traditional sense? A really long time ago, I'd wager. Yeah, let's talk some celebrity news, and I know that's what you people like. I say sarcastically. Sam Elliott was recently asked about his opinion about Power of the Dog, which is some Western film made by some woman from New Zealand that claims to eviscerate the American mythos by portraying lonely, bitter, closeted gay cowboys. And unlike Brokeback Mountain, these are actual cowboys, not shepherds. But yeah, first of all, wow, that's totally original. Nobody's ever done that before. It's not at all like the American, Turnarian frontier thesis mythos haven't been thoroughly eviscerated since the 1950s at least. Sam's response when asked was, yeah, you want to talk about that piece of shit? I haven't seen that movie, so I can't comment on it. Everybody's mad at Sammy Boy for saying this, complaining about how there's a bunch of homosexual themes in that movie. Again, it's hardly original to visualize gay stuff in the Western mythos. I mean, it's all masculine and there's, not a lot of women around, at least not out on the prairie. And yeah, like most heroic mythologies, it can very easily become a homoerotic farce. I mean, that's a sad but true fact. But I don't get why everybody's so shocked that Sam Elliott was saying this. Are you people really shocked that a hairy mustache man who says, beef, it's what's for dinner? He might not be totally down with gay cowboys. For the record, I've always said that I'm down with deconstructing mythology, but only if it's done fairly. Like, you should either deconstruct every mythology, or deconstruct no mythology. But of course, as we all know, mythological deconstruction is always used as a weapon to demoralize a certain country and its culture. So, Ms. Kiwi, you want to deconstruct the Western mythos? Sure, cool. Somebody ought to fire back at her. Deconstruct, the Bob Semple tank or whatever from New Zealand. There was that movie, Once Were Warriors, that deconstructs specifically the indigenous Maori, warrior culture and how it leads to criminality, gang life, and dysfunction. That's kind of the idea, but I'm talking more about the Paheka mythology, the white New Zealander mythos. Still, as far as New Zealand's film industry goes, it's not as bad as that new Lord of the Rings show on Amazon. And yeah, we're going to talk about this again a little bit. Actually, I don't even know if that crap is being filmed in Kiwi land. The original trilogies, the Hobbit trilogy was balls. Yeah, they were filmed there. But this new show, I don't know. And I don't really care enough to look it up. I'm sure Jeff Bezos threw enough money at it to film wherever he damn well pleases. And man, oh man, is it hilarious to see the OneRing.net desperately trying to prop this show up and generate hype for it. They're like, in 6 months, we're going to return to Khazad-dûm and see, the glorious ancestors of Numenor. Razorfist put it best on Twitter. It's like, so, is that going to be after the shitty Amazon fan fiction? Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, but don't they have, only the rights to, 20 pages of the book? Basically some appendices? They don't have the rights to the actual Lord of the Rings. They don't have the rights to the Silmarillion. They basically have the rights to the appendix, and they're just going to crap up a bunch of crap. Ponythroat says we need to deconstruct the mythology of the Holocaust. Yeah, let's not go there, all right? I know you're being an edgelord, but yeah. And to be fair, the Bob Semple is pretty much mythical. Well, it is sort of the Bob Semple tank is sort of it represents a mythos of can-do spirit and, quirky incompetence. Ponythroat talking about the Rings of Power crap. Says, they moved the filming to the UK due to New Zealand's COVID laws. That's where Game of Thrones was filmed. I thought they filmed Game of Thrones in Czechia. You want to talk about name changes. But yeah, the Lord of the Rings show, which is barely even a Lord of the Rings show, that's not good. You might as well make a show out of that. It's called Rings of Power. There was that Sega Genesis game called The Rings of Power, which is basically a bootleg Lord of the Rings game. Might as well make a show out of that. That'd be better than, whatever they're making. The only thing I remember about the Rings of Power game on Sega Genesis is there was a code where you can make the chick on the front, on the title screen be naked. Old video games. They're so much better than the new stuff. But yeah, I am slightly excited to see, the Rings of Power, flop, which it inevitably will. $1 billion was put into this. This will be, the greatest flop in the history of entertainment. I'm not excited enough to actually watch it, because that'll, justify its existence. But yeah, this is going to be a disaster. It's going to be a huge toilet fire. Going back to international news, silliness. Brazil encases gordophobia, anti-fat discrimination in their laws. New laws enshrine protection for the fatties. Well, it's wonderful to see American woke BS spreading to other countries. Laws in the city of Recife Requires schools to buy desks for lardos and educate teachers about weight-based discrimination. Did you know Brazil has so many fatties? I didn't, but apparently they do. I believe they're like number 4 or 5 in the top 10. And somehow America's not even number 1. That's pretty horrifying. Hey, actually, let's, okay, let's see. Ponythroat is, talking, and wow, it's a lot of people leaving the chat. Game of Thrones is filmed in various places, primarily the UK. The cast lean very heavily British. Well, I mean, you get subsidies if you, use English actors in productions in film in England. Rings of Power must film in the same place to be as much of a rip-off as possible. Yeah, let's hope that there's not going to be a bunch of random nudity and garbage in Rings of Power. I mean, people forget, like, Tolkien was literally a tweed-wearing Victorian gentleman. I mean, he would not approve of this. But yeah, let's look up which countries have the most fatties. Okay, as of right now, oh god, it's bad. Sorry. So let's see. Oh god, America's not even in the top 10. My, that's a lot of Polynesian countries, measured by BMI. Yeah, it's all basically all Polynesian countries, and then Egypt. My, that's oh boy, this is not good. Yeah, no, it's it's in Brazil now. Ugh. Yeah, Brazil, considering that much of your tourism industry and really your global image on the whole depends heavily upon presenting an image of sexually voluptuous bombshells, protecting fatties by law seems like a very bad idea. And of course, let's point out that Michigan first passed a law protecting the fatties from discrimination in 1976. You know, God, it's not just America anymore. And like I said, the fact that America is not anywhere near the fattest country in the world, considering how many fat asses we have, that's very deeply unsettling. I mean, it's everywhere. I mean, India is having a massive increase in obesity. Several African countries are too, like sub-Saharan African countries. Brazil. God, the whole world is just being giant tubs of shit. Okay, small island nations lean very ham-planet for some reason, Ponythroat says. Well, Polynesian people do tend to put on weight. I mean, it is actually like a genetic evolution back in the early days when they had, like, you know, when they were sailing for months and months with spotty food sources. It was an advantage back in, like, the ancient times. But yeah, in a day and age of, you know, processed food and garbage, it's not an advantage. Yeah, a lot of ham planets on Nauru and the Cook Islands and Samoa and what have you. And the biggest shame of it all is that there's going to be a lot of, like, fat people, let's be honest, fat women with, you know, the few men that do look good. And that's going to wildly skew their sexual perceptions of themselves. You know, I said it before and I'll say it again. Fit men should bogart yourself from fatties. I know sometimes you just got to get your rocks off with a real partner, but don't. There's no shame in jacking off. I'd rather jack off than being a fatty. But yeah, first off, I got a bit of a diatribe on fat people. And, you know, first of all, I don't mean like people that are just, you know, little tubby, you know, I mean like really like morbidly obese people. I mean, I'm talking like, you know, more than like, you know, 350, 400 pounds. Like, I have no idea how people can even get to be that fat. And like, so many of them. I cannot ever conceive of being in a mindset where I'm a 500-pound tub of shit and I'm not utterly disgusted with how I look. And I wouldn't actively make efforts to not be that fat. Okay, Fletch Kielman says, hey, Larsen, just stopping in on my Saturday morning drive to make sure you're doing okay. Glad you're back and glad you're picking on fatties, I guess. Stay healthy, my friend. I'll be listening. Yeah, like I said earlier on, I have some woman-related business to deal with later this evening, so I'm getting it done early, the live stream. Oh, I'm not picking on fatties. I'm just asking some questions as a washed-up personal trainer. Wink. Yeah, like, I don't... I mean, not only can I not conceive of, like, not actively making efforts to not be fat, I don't even conceive of how you even get that fat. I mean, when I broke my foot, I was sitting on ass for 6 months, and I put on some weight. But even then, with, like, literally sitting on my ass for 6 months, the fattest I got, I was, like, 220, 230. So, I'm not talking about being, like, a little chubby, a little fat. I mean, like a ham planet. Like, how do you even get that fat? Like, I don't understand. Like, how is that even feasible? And I said this before, and I'll say it again. Boy, I hate when fat women call themselves curvy. Sorry, a bit of a digression here, but how do you even get that fat? Like, are you just eating buckets of lard? Like, I know people blame junk food, but it's like, who eats junk food, like, all day, every day? Have you people ever eaten a proper cooked meal? Why would you prefer to eat junk food over real food? In fact, I take that back. I do have a slight suspicion of how people are getting this fat, and people probably would be healthier if they were eating buckets of lard and tallow all day, every day. It's the corn syrup and seed oils. Cheap, easily available fats and calories that are unhealthy and unnatural. Okay, Fletch Kyleman corrects me on the pronunciation of his name. I apologize. I mean, it's so damn easy to not be fat. Like, just don't eat shit and get exercise. I mean, obviously, some people are predisposed to putting on weight, but, like, you should not be fat to the point where, like, you can't walk up a flight of stairs. I mean, I'm being a little, fat is okay, but, like, if you're fat to the point where, like, it impedes your day-to-day tasks, like, that's not good. I mean, like, I'm not saying, like, some, old man should be like, yeah, you should have a six-pack, old-timer. Yeah, I mean, some old people, their metabolism slows down, but, if you're getting exercise and, you're keeping it to a manageable level, like, that's not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about, like, bedridden people and, like, scooter people. I mean, it's like Bill Burr said, you ate your way into this mess, you can walk your way out of it. Just eat food that people from the 19th century would recognize as food. Use common sense. Don't eat anything with ingredient lists longer than your thumb. And start shedding the pounds. And yes, this was the subject of my third book, The Yeoman Diet. I mean, I hate counting calories myself, so I don't do it. I learned pretty quickly that anybody who walks or runs, 10, 15,000 steps a day is by definition never going to be fat. I mean, I know fatties don't run very often because, my shin splints. So walk, damn it. You have an iPhone? It has a step counter in it built in. Use it. Okay, Fletch Kyleman says, I can honestly say that my fighting weight was about 169 to 160. I got fat, I'm speaking about now, so I'm close to 240. I had hip surgery, a cancer scare, and other stuff the last year and a half to 2 years. Person on a crusade to get rid of this girth. He's a jiu-jitsu guy, grab us out of the question. Yeah, see, that's what I'm talking about. Like, I gained, like, that surgery weight myself. But, you're 240. Like, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the people who are, like, 400, 500, 600 pounds. I mean, there's, like, 5 people who are, like, 1,000 pounds. They have TV shows. Like, how are there 5 people who weigh 1,000 pounds, like, in one country? This is ridiculous. I mean, there's a tweet that went around not too far back. It showed, like, a circus fat man from like the early 1900s or the 1920s. He was like 400 pounds. Like 400 pounds was like a freak 100 years ago. Now it's like everybody's 400 pounds. So I'm not judging you, Kyleman. Like, you're not like that level. And yeah, for the record, like my fighting weight is like 175 to 180. So, you know, I didn't like being 230, 220, 230 either. But yes, second. Oh wait, I forgot to talk about pony throat. If obese people need to eat some natural fat, just scrape it off their skin. The snake eating its own tail. And there was a morbidly obese guy who literally didn't eat for a year, and he dropped like 300 pounds. So you can do that if all else fails. But secondly, this idiotic fat acceptance crap is 100% a cultural export from America. So my apologies, Brazil. It really makes me laugh uproariously when people are like, oh, America's so conservative, it's reactionary, it's a white supremacist empire. Yeah, I mean, you can believe that if you want. You'd be wrong, but you can believe that. You have the right to believe that, you idiot. I'm sorry, the U.S. is largely the source of all the woke identity politics and nonsense going on nowadays. Well, I mean, that and Michel Foucault, who was French. I mean, hell, you could basically say that all American woke garbage is what happens when people with below 90 IQs read Michel Foucault. It's what happens when not particularly intelligent people read the work of a guy who talks about, dark systemic forces that permeate the landscape and how all identities and concepts are mere social constructs. Not that IQ is a measure of anything other than the ability to take IQ tests, Susan. Thus, after a broad surface-level understanding of Foucault, you have a bunch of idiots who believe in the mysterious phlogiston of institutional racism and white privilege. Things that nobody can provide true, concrete examples of, but they permeate all of society. This totally isn't the same thing as the magical thinking common in hunter-gatherer societies. And no, Susan, I'm not calling them witch doctors. They're traditional healers. Ponythroat says, fun fact, if all the fat people in America jumped at the same time, some of them might lose some weight. I have always said, if you gave me a megaphone and a way to talk to every fatty in America, I could get this country to lose weight in 1 year. I mean, God, like, with the social construct Foucault thing, you have fat, dumpy people who believe that they can recon society so that they can be considered beautiful. We're just going to deconstruct body standards and beauty standards. And, it's always inevitably so that it'll be deconstructed in a way that they will be considered beautiful. And, we can just magic up a perfect world by wishful thinking and spastic buttock shaking. Why, yes, I am talking to you, Ta-Nehisi Coates, who has said in interviews that he loves Foucault, but he didn't finish his books. Mr. Coates is a genius, Susan, and my feeble ice person mind pales in comparison to his glorious sun people mind, Mrs. Wabber Jackie. Wait, is Susan married? I don't know. And to think that all Michel Foucault really wanted to do was deconstruct the age of consent law so that he could sleep with the beautiful teenage boys that he lusted after so much. Not that there's anything wrong with homosexuality, Susan. Okay, Fletch says, I understand what you're talking about. What I'm getting at is, I understand what you're talking about. It's easy for the weight to creep up on you. Yeah, he's never been this heavy. Every pound is an extra 4 pounds on your knees and hips. Yeah, it does creep up on you. And I'm not saying you got to lose like overnight. I mean, it took me, an additional 4 or 5, maybe even 6 months to lose the weight that I put on. I mean, yeah, running was miserable when I was heavier. I mean, hell, like I'm actually put on a little bit of weight for the winter now, like not too much. Like I was like 195. I usually like to be like 180 to 185. So I'm currently down to 188. So, I mean, I'm kind of in your boat too a little bit. Not nearly as much, of course. Ponythroat says, will the Frenchiness never end? Hone hone. I don't think so. Well, actually, yeah, I don't know how much wokeness comes from the French nowadays. I mean, it's all from the USA nowadays. So let me ask you, all this woke stuff comes from America. Is this an exemplar of the conservative American culture? I mean, it doesn't seem like it to me. I mean, this is all pretty clearly left-wing critical theory. I mean, it's certainly not right-wing. Now, I mean, this is distinct from traditional Marxist theory, I will grant you that. I mean, Marx certainly never talked like this. And yes, I am aware that part of the Communist Manifesto does go into a embryonic form of critical theory, criticizing the nuclear family structure as being an artificial economic unit and, blah-de-blah. That's a long step away from, modern critical theory where it's like, we're going to change the world by flapping our disgusting fat buttocks all about. Yeah, speaking of buttock flapping, my favorite Twitter account, though, Wages Posting L's, had some, nonsense where a woman was, throwing a fit in the back of, a McDonald's, in bare feet, might I add. She threatens to throw hot oil in someone's face, then she climbs out the window, does a little bit of twerking, and then climbs out. I'm not going to discuss the ethnicity of said woman. I mean, I couldn't identify it. She might have been Amish. But, yeah, that's, I don't understand why there's so much spastic buttock flapping. What are they trying to accomplish here? Okay, but yeah, I mean, all this critical theory stuff, it's not traditional economic Marxism, despite what I just said about the Communist Manifesto. I will admit that traditional Marxism never quite caught on in America. I mean, a little bit in, the 30s. And going back a little earlier, I do talk about the labor unions sometimes. Labor movement, I should say. And what examples of traditional Marxism there were in America were actively killed off by Reagan in the 80s. You cannot look at the modern American cultural landscape and say to yourself, boy, there's a lot of reactionary thought here. Where are the exemplars of altar and throne conservatism? Where's the blood and soil racial nationalism? I don't see it. And yeah, there are dumbasses who believe in that. But, I'm sorry, do the neo-reactionaries have any institutional power at all? Do the Nazis? No, they don't. Are women being kept in Kinder, Koika, Kirche? I don't speak German, so I probably butcher that pronunciation. Kirche. It's got an umlaut over the U. But yeah, the point is they're not being kept in that. I mean, America as a culture absolutely celebrates female promiscuity, slovenliness, and obnoxiousness. Okay, Ponythroat says Asians posting their R's online. I'm not sure what you're referring to. But yeah, America is literally the source of all modern leftist garbage. You're going to tell me with a straight face that America is some right-wing fascist hellscape? I mean, it's a hellscape, all right, but it sure as hell ain't fascist and right-wing. Spoilers, we killed the Soviet Union, and then we replaced the Soviet Union. I have some memes about that, but I gotta wait for my content strikes to go away, because I don't want to invoke the wrath of Susan and get banned again. The allegations that America is like a font of white supremacy is even more ridiculous. In the span of less than 50 years, America went from being like 80 to 85% white to 60% white, and it's dropping every day. And this change was actively implemented and celebrated by our politicians. This is what the people in charge want more than anything else. We literally hand our government and billion-dollar corporations over to non-white people who then lecture us about how shitty and stupid our nation, history, and culture are. We topple statues of our leaders and deconstruct history and heritage, and we imbibe the notion that every single aspect of America is shameful and disgraceful. Yeah, that sounds white supremacist to me, you idiots. Okay, Fletch Kyleman says, I used to work for NPR. It feels like the wokeness will never end. Uh, I mean, I don't think so. I mean, some people, like, you know, I've heard some commentators posit that America might do a hard pendulum shift, like a hard right wing. Yeah, Pony, but I'll get to that in a second. I mean, I certainly hope it doesn't do that. But as far as I can tell, I mean, is America ever going to return to sanity? No, it's going to be either hard left or hard right. And so far, it's looking hard left. Okay, Ponythroat says Asians posting their R's online again. Yeah, I got the joke, Ponythroat, but I'm not sure what you're saying it in reference to. Are you talking about the wages thing or what? Like, I don't know. I mean, you could logically argue that America, like many Western nations, was implicitly white supremacist in its past, sure. But isn't it clear that America is going above and beyond and overcompensating and groveling to make amends for its past sins, both real and imagined? I mean, this is the greatest cultural export of modern America. Inane woke garbage. Congratulations, like I said, we won the Cold War and beat the Soviet Union, and then we became the Soviet Union. We're not preaching manifest destiny as we go to war. We're saving the moms and dads in Iraq, as W put it so eloquently. We invade countries to force them to have McDonald's and gay pride parades. Yeah, we're totally Nazis, hurdy-dur. Ponythroat says he's referring to the wages thing. Well, I don't know. I didn't really get a good look at the people who are working at the McDonald's. I mean, maybe they were Asians. I don't know. But yeah, the woman who was throwing a fit in the back kitchen area, she was of some indiscriminate ethnicity I couldn't identify. And I have no idea what ethnicity would throw a shit fit and then start twerking for no reason. But yeah, back to the America thing. America is somehow criticized for both being evil, racist, white supremacist, conservative by the left, and a source of leftist woke garbage by rightists in other countries. Like a lot of French, right wingers criticize America for spreading their woke garbage everywhere. And guess what? The rightists are right. Okay, I gotta get my mind off this. Let's get a little bit of humor in here. A bit of a hard gear shift. Another Twitter account I really like, Super 70s Sports, just had a post showing an audio cassette tape of a novelization of Rambo 2. Yeah, I know that but it was like, the Reading Rainbow novelization or whatever. So this is intended for kids. I know that a lot of R-rated movies got like toys and children's stuff in the 80s for some inexplicable reason, but I really want to hear this tape. Yeah, stick this tape inside your Teddy Ruxpin. Murdoch, I'm coming for you, John said as he gripped the microphone and bashed in the Russian's face with it. I don't know why you wouldn't do the first movie. I mean, nothing says good bedtime kids reading than a traumatized Vietnam veteran having a mental breakdown about his friend being killed by a shoeshine boy. Comparing that to the blatant Reagan administration jacking off that the second and third Rambos were, I think it's a lateral movement in child appropriateness, to be honest. In other news, Girl Scouts are reporting being angrily harassed by randos. Randos are angrily yelling at them for selling cookies. Cookies are unhealthy, don't you know? And also, there's some kind of conspiracy about the Girl Scouts being involved with Planned Parenthood or something. Or you could, not buy the cookies. I don't know why you would yell at a salesman for having wares to sell. I mean, I've never understood that. Like, if you don't like the wares, why would you not take it up with the company? Why would you yell at the salesperson? I mean, that's not exactly what I think they meant when they say make new friends but keep the old. Whatever. And this is the and finally section where we kind of get to the end of the silly stuff. A South Korean professor has invented a magical new toilet. A toilet that pays people digital currency when used, and it converts feces into energy. It's that kind of magical toilet. Not the kind of magical toilet that J.K. Rowling comes up in a massive brain blast where she says that the wizards just took dumps on the floor and then magicked it away. No, this is a real magic. This is digital magic. A toilet that converts feces into energy, and it pays you cryptocurrency when you use it. You've heard of Bitcoin? Well, get ready for shitcoin. Ponythroat says, imagine punching a little girl in the face because he was proffering oatmeal raisin. I like those, what do you call them? Those like Samoas or whatever they make. I like those cookies myself. But, I do find oatmeal raisin to be very underrated as far as cookies go. And yeah, I'll just say it. Hard cookies are garbage. They should never be made ever. Soft or nothing. But yeah, how about that shitcoin toilet? Yeah, I'm 100% down for it if it works effectively. Not to brag, but I am very regular in my bowel movements. I'd be getting paid every day for this. Sometimes twice a day. And with that, my notes are done. If anybody has anything else to talk about, feel free to bring it up now, because I do have to leave, actually at 11:30, so I have a little bit of time left. If anybody's got any questions, anybody's got something to say it now. Otherwise, I'm out of here. Ponythroat. The toilet should dispense toilet paper instead of crypto, aka Russian currency. Well, I mean, South Korea is it's a country in the Sinosphere, so they probably use bidets, actually, so I don't know if they even use toilet paper. But yeah, I think that the crypto toilet that might be pretty good. I mean, it might be just enough to placate the poors from rioting and overthrowing the government because they'll be getting paid every time they use the crapper. I think they might actually be implementing this. Ponythroat says, "What's your opinion on PC keyboards?" I don't really have an opinion on them. Is there a problem with PC keyboards? Oh, and fun fact, speaking of fatties, I was idly looking up statistics, and apparently Vietnam is the least obese country in the world. So, good for them, I suppose. And at 169, doing very well in obesity rankings, is Chad. A bunch of Chads in Chad. Well, yeah, like, I don't really have a opinion about keyboards. I mean, I use a laptop first of all, and yeah, I mean, just the basic keyboard will work fine as long as it works. I don't really have a problem with any keyboards. I know some people they want to like change the QWERTY order. I mean, I've obviously learned QWERTY very well, and I don't have a problem with QWERTY. Ponythroat says starving countries tend to not have high obesity. Well, I don't think Vietnam is really a starving country. Like Congo has a much higher rate of obesity than Vietnam or China, and they're not like starving at all. Well, yeah, Chad is too Chad to have a functioning country, but yeah, I mean, like China is you know well-to-do country on the grand scheme of things, and they're very low on the ranks of obesity. But then again, of course, I know like Chinese people will just straight up fat shame you to your face if you're fat, so that probably helps matters. Yeah, but America's number 12, in between Jordan and Kuwait. Well, at least we're not in the top 10. I can be proud of that. Hey, we're kind of winding things down here. Okay, Ponythroat says, I struggle to think of non-inane questions on a time limit. China's also getting fatter with time. I mean, yeah, China will inevitably get fatter. I mean, especially in comparison when you consider that China went through multiple, like, earth-rending famines in the 20th century. But yeah, looking at the Britannica here, China is, at 6.2%. And just to talk about the China thing, I mean, Singapore is also very low. Again, I do criticize a lot of aspects of Chinese culture, but the fact that they'll just straight up fat shame you to your face, I do actually kind of respect that. I can't look up other Chinese diaspora places like Hong Kong and Taiwan since they're technically not countries at all. But I'm sure they're very low as well. Alright, I think we're done here. Alright, so that was Larsen Live. I got a new video scheduled up tomorrow, first thing in the AM. So I'll see you people later. For Larsen Halleck, I'm Larsen Halleck. Thank you, all my fans.